Their last child was born on January 2nd, 1873, and was named Mary Francoise Therese Martin. A little over half a century later, people know her as Saint Therese of Lisieux or the Little Flower. Eventually, all the surviving children, 5 girls, would become nuns, 4 of them in the same Carmelite monastery in Lisieux. Zélie's lace business was doing well, that Louis sold his watchmaking and jewelry business to his nephew and became manager and salesman for Zélie. They moved into the home where Zélie had her offices. Louis traveled a lot in order to get orders for the lace. He also made patterns for her. Being an accomplished artist, he was often away on business, including at the time of Therese's birth. There are frequent references to his absences in Zélie's correspondence. Zélie taught her children the morning offering, the simple acceptance of daily difficulties, which is the basis of the little way later taught by Therese. One cannot conceive of the growth in holiness of Saint Therese and her sister independent of the spiritual life of Mr. and Mrs. Martin. Discovered too late, the cancer was inoperable. At midnight on August 28, 1877, she died in Alençon at the age of 46. Louis was left to raise 5 children, the youngest of whom, Therese, was only 4.5 years old. Louis consulted with his elder daughters and decided to move to Lisieux for live closer to the family of his brother-in-law, Isidore Guérin. Life at Les Buissonnettes, the new house in Lisieux, was more austere and withdrawn than at Alençon. But the most admirable work of this father was the offering to God of all his daughters. In his unshakable submission to God's will, he considered this offering as a very special grace granted to his family. The last years of the life of Mr. Martin, the patriarch, as he was affectionately called by those close to him, were marked by several health problems. In 1889, he suffered 2 paralyzing shocks followed by cerebral arteriosclerosis, for which he was hospitalized for 3 years in Cannes. While there, he filled those around him with admiration and respect. He returned to Lisieux in May 1892, suffering symptoms of severe dementia. 2 of his daughters, Céline and Léonie, looked after him until he died on Sunday, July 29, 1894, at the age of 71. Beatification of Louis and Zélie Martin. On October 13, 1958, Louis and Zélie Martin's remains were unearthed at the Lisieux Cemetery. Both bodies were examined by 3 doctors. The only objects that remained intact outside of the bone were scapula of Our Lady of Mount Carmel and their metal crucifix. After the examination, their remains were placed in new coffins and then reburied behind the apse of the Basilica of Saint Therese until 2008. On March 26, 1994, Pope John Paul II declared the Martin couple venerable, leading the way for their beatification. In order to be beatified, a candidate must be credited with the verified miracle. In 2008, the Medical Commission of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints declared the healing of a young boy, Pietro Schiliro of Monza, Italy, to be inexplicable by science and general knowledge, and was attributed to their intersection. Pietro, born on May 25, 2002, suffered from pulmonary complications following the inhalation of meconium during his birth. The unexpected healing came about on June 29, 2002, after a novena of prayers to Louis and Zélie Martin. On July the 3rd, 2008, Pope Benedict XVI recognized Pietro's healing is miraculous and attributed it to the Martin's intercession. He set October 19, 2008 as the date of their beatification, and July 12 is their feast day. In his homily at the beatification, Cardinal Saraiva Martin, the prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, said that the Martins were a true model of marriage. He also offered them as models for people who face illness and death. He cited Therese's words from her letter. She wrote, "God gave me a father and a mother who were more worthy of heaven than on earth." Among the vocations to which people are called by God, marriage is one of the highest and noblest. Louis and Zélie understood that they could become holy not only in spite of marriage, but through, in, and by it, that their becoming a couple was the beginning of an action together. Canonization of Louis and Zélie Martin. The cause of canonization of Blessed Louis and Zélie Martin progressed significantly after their beatification. On July 7, 2013, Archbishop Carlos Osorosera of Valencia, Spain, presided at the opening of the canonical process inquiring into the 2008 healing of a little girl named Carmen, born in Spain on the feast of Saint Teresa of Avila. Carmen had severe bleeding in the brain, the lungs, and the heart, and did not respond to treatment. The doctor could do nothing for her and her parents. Seeing the danger of death, immediately prayed to God and asked the discarded Carmelite nun of Serra, Spain, to pray for her as well. The Carmelite nuns recommend they pray to novena to Zélie and Louis Martin, since they had experienced the death of 3 children as babies and one at 5 years old. As soon as the novena began, the baby began to get better, culminating in her astonishing recovery without any medical explanation. Within 7 weeks, she was completely and inexplicably cured. On January 7, 2013, they began the formal opening of inquiry into whether Carmen's cure was a miracle attributable to the intercession of Blessed Zélie and Louis Martin. A total of 8 doctors testified before the tribunal that there was no scientific explanation for her cure. 6 of them had witnessed her healing at the time. 2 were appointed later by the investigating tribunal. The supervising judge of the tribunal said that all 8 doctors joined in agreeing that the little girl should have died. They also believe that at the very least she should have suffered significant permanent physical and psychological consequences. However, she is completely healthy today. Then in May 2013, after all the testimony was completed, the evidence was examined in Rome first by the Medical Conference of the Vatican Congregation for the Causes of Saints, then by the Commission of Theologians, and finally by the bishop and cardinals. They then presented the documentation to the Pope, who set the date for her canonization. On March 4, 2015, Cardinal Amato, prefect of the Congregation for the Causes of the Saints, announced that Louis and Zélie Martin will be canonized in October of this year, the same month in which the Synod of Bishops on the family will take place in Vatican. The saints are not only priests and religious, but also laypersons, the cardinal said, referring to the French spouses. The cardinal's announcement comes a short time after Bishop Jean-Claude Boulanger, who oversees the French Diocese of Bayeux-Lisieux, revealed his intention to open the course of beatification for Saint Therese's older sister, Léonie Martin, referred to Bishop Boulanger as Therese's difficult sister. Louis was the third of Louis and Zélie's 9 children, and a member of the Order of the Visitation. Louis and Zélie were beatified October 19, 2008 by then Pope Benedict XVI. Their canonization would be the first of its kind in history, where a married couple are jointly proclaimed saints together. Their path to the altar has surpassed that of married couple B.L. Luigi and Maria Belrem Quattrochi, who were beatified together in October 2001. Married in 1858, just 3 months after meeting each other, Louis and Zélie lived in celibacy for nearly a year, but eventually went on to have 9 children. 4 died in infancy, while the remaining 5 daughters entered religious life. Both had previously attempted to enter the religious life themselves. Louis is a monk and Zélie a nun with the Order of the Sisters of Charity of Saint Vincent de Paul. Zélie was turned away due to respiratory problems and frequent headaches, while Louis was denied entry because he could not learn to speak Latin, which at that time was a requirement for entering the seminary. Louis then became a watchmaker and Zélie a lace maker. Known for living an exemplary life of holiness, the couple's daily practices include Mass at 5:30 a.m., praying the Angelus and Vespers, resting on Sundays, and fasting during Lent and Advent. The couple would also invite poor people to dine with them in their home, and they frequently visited the elderly, thus teaching their children to treat the disadvantaged as equals. Zélie died from cancer at the age of 46, leaving Louis to care for their 5 young daughters, Mary, Pauline, Leonie, Céline, and Thérèse, who was only 4 at the time. Louis died in 1894 after suffering 2 strokes in 1889, followed by 5 years of serious drawn-out illness. Parents of Saint Thérèse were canonized on October 19, 2015 at the Basilica of Saint Peter in the Vatican. On that day, which was also World Mission Sunday, coincided with the Synod on the Family taking place in Rome. They are the only married couple ever canonized together. A letter to Thérèse while she was in the convent of Lisieux from her aunt Céline Guérin, who was the sister of her mother, contained what may now seem like a prophetic statement about Louis and Zélie. God will that the mother who guided your early childhood be raised to a more sublime glory and enjoy heavenly delights. Ah, it is because, little Thérèse, your parents are among those we may call saints and who merit bringing forth saints.